Hey guys, welcome back. So I've had a few phone calls. They want to know how to check the transmission fluid and your differential fluid. And how can you tell if it's full or not? As you can see, I have a truck that's right up in the air to make my life a little bit easier. I know it's not gonna be so great for you guys because you'll be doing this on your back. What we're gonna do is we're gonna check the transmission and the differentials. You're gonna need 2 tools and 1 Allen socket tool. So I have a 14 millimeter for a 1/2-inch drive breaker bar for the transmission. And again, our beautiful crescent wrench. I told you it's multi-use, so you guys gotta have one. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna check the transmission fluid on this truck. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the plug, and all we're gonna do is, if we see it slowly weep out, we know it's full. Now, if you don't see any fluid coming out, we're gonna remove it and then stick our finger through the hole, and all we're gonna do is just bend your finger a little. You should be able to touch the fluid. If you have to stick it in and reach around and not get your finger completely wet, and you gotta reach down, then it needs to be full. You need to top it off with fluid. Now, the other thing is intervals. The best thing I can tell you to do is get with your manufacturer of the truck that you've purchased. Just make sure that you guys have 1, the proper fluid, and 2, that you do it within intervals. Now, most of these trucks now should be all on synthetic oil. Just remember, the brand shouldn't matter, just the weight. You know, there's so many brands out there, so there's not one that I'm typically used to. I just get whatever is available at the time, but the weight is what matters, is what you want to put in your trucks. So just always remember, refer to your manufacturer manual to determine the intervals and what oil weight that needs to be put in these trucks. And then the other thing is, if you ever remove the plug and you smell where it smells burnt, at that point, I would highly recommend that you drain all the oil and fill it back up. If the transmission is equipped with a filter, replace the filter as well. The differentials, some of them have filters, some of them don't. If it doesn't, don't freak out. They usually don't, but go ahead and drain that fluid and fill it back up as well. Now, when you do differentials, it could be a little different. When you drain it and then top it off, drive the truck and then recheck it and then refill, because the oil will travel down to the hubs. And that's what's gonna happen. Just make sure you're full of fluid before going into the open road. Let's start with inspecting the transmission on the truck that we have right behind us. And for that one, you're gonna need your breaker bar and a 14 millimeter Allen head. All right, so let's hop right into it, guys. All right, guys, so here's the transmission. I also have to make sure you guys beware and be cautious when you're around the one box. This here is your exhaust system. So if you guys just turned off your truck and you went to go check the oil, this will burn you. So if anything, wait or just be very cautious. Please don't burn yourself. So right here's the one back. So right now we're on the passenger side. The fill plug is right here. So that's where we're gonna insert our tool. And when you put it in there, you can do 1 or 2 things. You can go slow, or sometimes just pull real fast, like just jerk it so you can pop it free and then start spinning. Then once it does that, it should start freeing up. You should be able to do it with your finger. So just like that, I am taking it off. And remember, take it slow because fluid might just start pouring out right away, which is fine. That's kind of what we want. We can get a little bit of oil coming out. All right, just like that. So this transmission is full as it drips out. And then when it does that, you know, put a little on your finger, smell it. If it smells burnt, then replace it. If it looks milky or looks discolored, that doesn't look like normal oil, then I would highly recommend changing out the oil. And if you did want to do that, the plug is right here on the bottom. And it should be exactly the same one, but there's more involved with that. But this is just to check what we're talking about. We can say that the oil is full in the transmission. It came out. And then all we're doing is just tighten it up. So we don't need to don't put all the force in the world. Right when you get it snug, maybe a quarter turn, that's it. That's all we're doing, no more. Don't crank down and create a problem, because once you strip this out, you're talking about them pulling down a transmission and welding a nut, costs you thousands of dollars. So just be careful when you take it loose and tighten it back up. All right, so that part is the transmission. Let's move back to the differentials. All right, guys, so now we're at the first power divider right here, first differential. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our trusty crescent wrench. What you're gonna do is get the size, make sure it's nice and snug, and you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna jerk real hard to break it free, and then Just take your time with it. Once it gets loose, you eventually will be able to do it with your hand, just like so. And all we're gonna do is just open it slow. We wanna see some fluid coming out. So there you go. That's what we wanna see, full of fluid. And again, check the oil, smell it, smells pretty new. And then if it's burnt, again, highly recommend drain and refill. And the drain is on the bottom right here. And again, there's some more steps that's involved with that. But this is, again, how you check your first differential on the truck. That's the power divider. And the same thing, you're gonna get it snugged. We're not gonna over tighten it. That's it. That's all it takes. Snug, little quarter turn tight, we're done. Now we're gonna move on to the last differential, the rear end. So let's get there. All right guys, so now we're at the very rear of the differential, the very last, the drive axle. And again, we're gonna do the same thing like we did on the first one. We're gonna put it on here and then jerk as hard as you can and then start twisting. Should come by hand. And all we're gonna do is just let it out slowly. We got a little oil coming out. That's what we want. There we go. See, that's not so bad, but if you stick your finger in, the oil should be right there. And that's what we want, guys. Now, if there's no oil coming out, you wanna put your finger in and just do a little dab. If you're searching down inside and it's empty, you need to top it off. And that's all it takes. Like I said, get it snug, quarter turn, we're done. And that's how you check the rear differential of the truck. Just a little review, checking the transmission in the front. You know you're gonna need that 14 millimeter Allen socket with a 1/2 inch breaker bar to break it free. We're gonna loosen it, then the rest should come off by finger. Again, you wanna see a little bit of fluid coming out. And then put it back in. If you smell anything that's burnt, highly recommend to replace. If you see any discoloration of oil like milkiness, then highly again, need to be replacing. And that goes the same thing for the differentials. Now, here's another thing I wanna mention, guys. If you ever get a seal leaking on the back of the transmission or around it, always check the fluid after the repair is done. You do not wanna leave the shop with low fluid. It'll burn up the transmission. That would go the same for the differentials. Differentials, you guys should be used to it by now. Wheel seals, when they're blown, or a pinion seal that is leaking, that comes out of the differential. You guys gotta make sure once the repair is done, make sure it's full of fluid so you don't burn up the differential and it explodes on you or overheats. You'll have big issues. Anything you guys have seen today, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Leave a comment at the bottom. If you guys like what you saw today, don't forget to pound that like button. If you guys want any more content coming your way, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.